Look at your watch right now. Think about the numbers on the screen. They tell you when to sleep, when to eat, and when to work. They feel like an objective law of the universe. But what if a government thousands of miles away decided your morning began in pitch darkness? What if your clock said it was noon, but the sun was barely rising over the horizon? This is not a dystopian science fiction premise. It is the daily reality for hundreds of millions of people living in Western China. If you travel 3,000 miles across the United States, your clock changes 4 times. If you make that same journey across Europe, you will cross 3 distinct time zones. But if you travel across those same 3,000 miles in China, the hands of your watch never move. 1.4 billion people are forced to live under one single tick of a clock. Why would any nation do this? The common answer is that it makes business and government simpler. But the real reason is far stranger. It is a story of political control, psychological synchronization, and an ancient struggle to rule human reality itself. To understand this, you have to look at the sheer scale of the Chinese landscape. Geographically, China is massive. It naturally spans 5 distinct astronomical time zones. If you stood on the eastern coast in Vladivostok's parallel, the sun would rise while the western border in Xinjiang was still shrouded in deep, midnight black. Under normal circumstances, this would mean a 5-hour time difference from east to west. But in 1949, everything changed. A new government took power under Mao Zedong. One of his very first decrees was to abolish the country's 5 historical time zones. With a single stroke of a pen, the entire nation was ordered to align with Beijing time. Imagine waking up in the city of Kashgar, in the far west of China. It is 8 o'clock in the morning according to the official state clock. You look outside your window. The sky is completely dark. The stars are still shining brightly. You have to walk to school or commute to work in the freezing, pitch-black cold of midnight. The sun will not rise for another 3 hours. Why would a state subject its citizens to such daily geographical absurdity? The answer lies in the psychological power of synchronization. As political scientist Benedict Anderson pointed out in his groundbreaking study of nationalism, a modern nation-state cannot exist without a shared sense of time. He called this imagined communities. To feel like one nation, people must believe they are doing the exact same things at the exact same moment. When you eat breakfast, you must believe your fellow citizens are eating breakfast too. By forcing everyone onto Beijing time, the state created a powerful illusion of unity. It was a way of declaring that no matter how far you lived from the capital, your heart and your daily life belonged to Beijing. But human biology does not care about political decrees. Your body has its own internal clock. This is your circadian rhythm. It is governed by light, not by laws. When you force millions of people to ignore the sun, something inside them begins to break. Social psychologist Robert Levine, who spent decades studying the pace of life across different cultures, discovered that forcing an artificial pace on a population dramatically alters their physical health. It increases stress. It disrupts sleep patterns. It creates a permanent state of biological disorientation. In Western China, people had to adapt just to survive. They did this by creating an unofficial, silent rebellion. They created their own time zone. It is known as Xinjiang time, and it is exactly 2 hours behind Beijing time. Today, this has created a bizarre, parallel reality. In the same city, 2 people can look at 2 different clocks and see 2 different worlds. If you go to a restaurant, you have to ask a crucial question. Are you open at 8 o'clock Beijing time or 8 o'clock local time? If you get it wrong, you might show up 2 hours early to an empty, locked building. This temporal divide is not just a minor inconvenience. It has become a deeply political line. The Han Chinese population, who migrated from the east, strictly use Beijing time. It is a symbol of their loyalty to the central government. But the local Uyghur population almost exclusively uses Xinjiang time. To them, using the local time is an act of quiet, daily resistance. It is a way of saying that their lives are still dictated by the land they live on, not by a distant regime. How does a government react to this quiet defiance? They make the clock mandatory. In Xinjiang, schools, government offices, and train stations must run strictly on Beijing time. If a local business posts its hours in Xinjiang time, it can face severe penalties. Even the television broadcasts are synchronized to the capital, forcing people to watch evening news programs when the afternoon sun is still blazing outside. Historian Ruth Rogaski has documented how East Asian states historically used scientific modernization, including the mechanical clock, to discipline the individual body itself. Time is not just a tool for coordination. It is a tool for obedience. If you can control when a person wakes up, when they eat, and when they sleep, you control the fundamental rhythm of their existence. You teach them to prioritize the demands of the state over the demands of their own physical biology. But China is not the only place where this happens. We like to think we are free from this kind of temporal manipulation. But are we really? Think about your own life. You wake up to an alarm, not the sun. You sit in traffic because of artificial working hours designed during the Industrial Revolution. You stare at a glowing screen late into the night, tricking your brain into thinking it is still daytime. We have all been forced into an artificial time zone of our own making. We have traded the natural rhythms of the earth for the synchronized efficiency of the modern economy. Why do we do this? Because synchronization equals power. It allows us to build massive networks, run global financial markets, and coordinate billions of lives across vast distances. But it comes at a cost. When you lose touch with the natural world, you lose a piece of your own humanity. The people of Xinjiang understand this. Every day, they navigate a silent, invisible war between the state's clock and the sun. They remind us that time is not a neutral, scientific fact. It is a political border, and it is a border that is redrawn every single day inside our own minds. Next time you look at your watch, remember that time is not a law of nature, but a boundary drawn by those who wish to rule it.